Hello everyone, welcome to Crime Courtroom Confidential. Today I want to have a bit more of a conversation around the Emmanuel Haro case, and I want to share some bits and pieces of footage, etc. with you. There's been some updates, which is why I'm doing a second live for the second day running. So first thing I want to talk to you about is what the police have said, really. So if we look at this, is the formal San Bernardino updates, police updates. So on the 14th of August, they essentially described that deputies in New Kuiper were dispatched to a retail business after Rebecca Haro reported that while she was stood outside her vehicle changing her child's diaper, she was physically assaulted by an unknown male and rendered unconscious. When she awoke, her 7-month-old infant, Emmanuel Haro, was gone. Deputies and canine units from San Bernardino and Riverside counties responded and began an extensive search. So we know actually that there were helicopters, there were canine units, and there were officers on the ground, and they carried out an extensive search in the area of the Big Five store where this incident is supposed to have happened. However, the Sheriff's Specialised Investigations Division responded because of the circumstances, and they assisted with the investigation from there on in. They've interviewed both parents and confronted Rebecca with inconsistencies in her initial statement, after which she declined to continue to be interviewed. Now, we talked about that yesterday, but they have updated things since, and that's why I wanted to look at this. So there's actually been two updates. So there was an update on the 18th that described that the investigation into Emmanuel's disappearance is continuing, and that they've conducted extensive searches in both New Kuiper and Cabazon, which is where their parents live, looking for Emmanuel and any evidence that might lead to his location and the circumstances surrounding his disappearance. Now, that has included, and this is important, several search warrants at the Haro home, canine units at the Haro home, and obtaining a large amount of surveillance video from areas of interest that is currently being reviewed. Now, we know that they've reviewed some of that. And what we've actually discovered is that there is footage from the liquor store opposite the Big Five that shows Rebecca Haro at her car, falling in the parking lot and getting back up. And we'll look at what the lawyer of Jake Haro says about this, but his description is very telling. But yesterday there was another update. So on August the 20th, the update, which was after Jake Haro's lawyer came out and said, apologies, and said that hi Crackerjacks, lovely to see you. Oh my word, it's somebody in the UK. Yay. So many of my viewers are either from the USA or from Canada. So it's lovely to see someone who's actually from the UK. Wonderful. the lawyer came out and basically said, look, the video shows that mum fell in the parking lot and got back up, and that corroborates the story, but he completely skips over the fact that there is nothing showing a baby or an assailant or kidnapper. He also went on to say that Jake and Rebecca are available to police for interview and are cooperating still. Now, after that, this update came out from San Bernardino Police, where they say that's not quite accurate. So they're trying to give the community as much information as they can without jeopardizing the investigation. And that whilst Emmanuel's father has retained an attorney, if the parents do choose to work with detectives, then the detectives welcome their cooperation as they continue efforts to locate Emmanuel. Now, what does that tell you? If that is a response to what the lawyer said, then that states that they're not cooperating, because otherwise that's what this update would say. But it is inviting them to continue to cooperate and kind of come back to the table, so to speak. They also dealt with the fire at the house across the street, and they have stated that there is nothing at the moment to link those two issues, the disappearance of Emmanuel and the fire across the street, but that they are continuing to communicate with the fire investigators as their investigation progresses. So if there is a link, then I'm sure that it will be found by the San Bernardino Police and the fire investigators joining forces. Now then, let me pull this off the screen, and I want to share some clips with you because I think it's important that you see what it is that mum was saying and how she says it and how she's acting. So let me see. I'll have to share it. That didn't work. Bear with me. Now then. Add to stage.
Came over here, I parked right here in this edge. When I was coming over here, I smelled the baby went to the restroom. It's like, okay, Papa, don't worry, we're gonna change you.
Rebecca says she took out a diaper and laid the baby down next to the car seat. She only remembers a voice she heard.
I was gonna get the diaper and somebody said, hola. And I didn't see nothing since. I woke up right here on the floor and I didn't see Emmanuel.
Rebecca says she woke up with a black eye and her baby gone. She searched around the car, ran into the
helicopter,
but no sign of Emmanuel and no witness to what may have happened.
Whoever took my son, please return him. We just want him back. We won't do anything to you. We just give us our son. Just keep him safe. Don't hurt him. Make sure you feed him, change him.
Emmanuel's father, Jake, says his family does not have any enemies and can't imagine who.
So what does this show us? It demonstrates to us that neither parent had any tears. Mum was attempting to show emotion, but in a very deceptive way. So if you see somebody who is doing these deep breaths in through their teeth, kind of locked teeth, it is usually a case that they're trying to show that they're emotional, but they're actually not. So immediately that raises huge red flags. She also goes on to talk about Emmanuel was a happy baby, a happy, healthy baby. Speaking about him in the past tense is, as we know, probably one of the biggest faux pas that you can make. Now then, we've got another clip where they are actually sat speaking to another channel. So let me just share this screen. I apologize, I've got to do it this way because I can't work out how to do it a more simple way. Now, what I will say is, please just everybody look at that bruise. It is not a brand new bruise. Within a matter of minutes, you do not see this. This is a fading bruise. It's developed its deep purple colour and it's started to fade away at the edges. It is not a new bruise. The other thing I will say is she says, and I saw white, and in every single clip I've seen, Jake Haro is wearing white. Is she leaking a bit of information here to us that she's actually looking at him when she's hit? And I don't think it was that day, if that is true. Also, why in Lord's name is he wearing a long-sleeved sweatshirt? It's in the middle of the California desert. I think it was about 105 degrees that day, if not more. Why is he wearing a jumper? Is he hiding something? Is it specific tattoos that might mean something to certain people? Is it marks on his arms? I don't know. I'm just posing the question, why are you wearing that top? So next one. Oh no, let's carry on with this one. Now, that was Grandma. I've just literally played that without having it added to the screen, haven't I? There's no hope. Not a hope in hell. Let's try that again.
Gonna get the diaper and somebody said hola, and I didn't see nothing since.
Haro says the bruise below her eye is from someone punching her out as she began to change her son in the back seat of her pickup.
I woke up right here on the floor, and I didn't see Emmanuel.
She says she looked around her vehicle and then ran into the store searching for her son and called 911. The assault happened so fast, Haro says she wasn't able to give investigators a description of who hit her.
Everybody came, the dogs, helicopters.
The couple live in Cabazon, but say they were in Yucaipa because their older son had football practice at a nearby park. And Haro says she drove to Big Five Thursday night to buy him a mouth guard. Mary Housen is Emmanuel's grandmother.
They're not going to hurt that baby. That couple were just home buddies.
She says investigators.
They're not going to hurt that baby. That couple. Not my daughter and her husband wouldn't hurt Emmanuel. Very lacking in personalisation. Also, this is the lady who still says that her son, who is convicted of murder of his girlfriend and is serving his sentence, is innocent, and that she will fight and continue to fight to prove that he's innocent. So whilst I appreciate that as a family member you really want to believe that somebody in your family won't do something horrific, I'm not sure I'd hold much sway by what she says.
Investigators have questioned the couple twice.
She can't handle it anymore. She's been without her baby since yesterday afternoon. If you have my grandson, please give it to his mom. She's going crazy. Please have mercy on her.
Many have asked why.
So that's that one. Now then.
And I laid him down and so I could get his diapers ready. And somebody said, "Hola," and that's all I remember. And I saw white. And a hearing sound, I fell on the floor.
The other thing as well is, don't you usually describe the inside of your house as the floor and the outside as the ground? I think that was it on that one, actually. So this next one is important. This is the I apologise, just bear with me. I've got to wait for an advert to finish because for some reason this news station, KCAL News, doesn't put stuff on. Right, here we go. Doesn't seem to put stuff onto YouTube. It's KCAL News, so thanks so much for this, and CBS News Los Angeles, and neither of them seem to have put this directly onto YouTube. So rather than playing it through another content creator, I thought it was a sensible idea for us to look at it as it is. Oh, now I've not got any sound. Where's the sound gone? Here we go.
find Emmanuel. That's what we need. That's all we're asking for.
Defense attorney Vincent Hughes is speaking on behalf of Jake Haro, the 32-year-old father of 7-month-old Emmanuel, who has now been missing 5 days.
Nobody is searching for a 7-month-old child. That's the big issue here.
Jake's wife, Rebecca, says someone punched her and took her baby as she was changing his diaper in a Yucaipa parking lot around 7:30 p.m. last Thursday. Hughes says since that night, San Bernardino County Sheriff Department investigators have turned their focus on the couple, including Haro's criminal past, and accusing them of not cooperating in the investigation.
But there was a conviction for child cruelty, which Jake is not running from. He's not hiding from his record. It's publicly available information.
Records show Haro had a 2023 conviction for willful child cruelty from a felony complaint.
Just to be clear, it's not 2023, it's 2021 that the conviction took place, and the incident was in October of 2018.
Complaint filed in Banning in 2018 that lists him as a co-defendant with his then wife Vanessa. Hughes represented him in that case.
There is no nexus between that case and this case here, and he should not be judged based on his past.
Hughes says he
That lawyer and defense lawyers are an integral part of the criminal justice system. I was one. I don't hold anything against any defense lawyer for doing their job. But what he has just said is that Jake Haro should not be judged for what he did in the past. And that is as far from the truth as you can get. Of course he should be flipping well judged for what he did in the past. He left his 10-week-old daughter with lifelong brain damage. He should never have been allowed around children again. And I apologise for getting passionate about it. Well, actually, no, I don't apologise for getting passionate about it. I'm getting passionate about it because everything to do with children and their mistreatment makes me passionate. He should never have been allowed to retain custody or care of a child, nor in fact have had even unsupervised contact with them. Because he's a dangerous, dangerous man. If you can do that to a 10-week-old baby, and it wasn't a one-off incident, as he described at the time of dropping the baby whilst bathing her on the cross section of the sink, in the double sink in the bathroom. No, that's not what happened, because it was a course of conduct, because this baby had injuries that were ranging in stages of healing. And not only that, the autopsy showed that she'd been strangled. Well, you don't do that when you drop a baby. I'm sorry, but you don't. So he should be judged for his past. He should never have had care and control of Emmanuel. And I strongly doubt that he didn't do something significant to this child.
He's a good father and loves his 2 children with Rebecca. Social workers did remove a 2-year-old from the couple's Cabazon home. This after they say they confronted Emmanuel's mother with inconsistencies in her account of what happened, and they have not ruled out anyone's involvement.
Not one thing has been cited as an inconsistency. Law enforcement is being extremely tight-lipped about the situation.
Hughes says they are both willing to talk to detectives and have handed over their vehicles, cell phones, and passwords, and allowed detectives with cadaver dogs into their homes.
They've searched the home, they've cut holes in the ground in the home, they've dug holes in the backyard. They've done everything, and nothing's been found.
So let's be clear. This lawyer is confirming for us that those things occurred. So there was speculation and rumour by different content creators that people have been digging up the yard, but we can't quite confirm it, and we've come to check and we can't see anything, and They dug holes in the yard. They also cut holes in the floorboards and the walls. They've got to have a reason for doing that. They've got to have a reason for not continuing with the external search for this supposedly abducted baby. The reason for that has got to be that they are absolutely sure that Rebecca's allegations are false. And the reason that I know that has got to be the case is that no police department in their right mind, if they were not absolutely sure, would stop the external searches. Let us look at Lily and Jack Sullivan. We know that the parents have been inconsistent, have been dishonest, but did that stop the police, the RCMP, from searching all out for 6 full days and coming back each time they got new information to start looking again? No, it didn't. Because you've got to make sure that you're covering all bases. The only time that you don't cover all bases is when you know that one of those bases is absolute rubbish. So we know that what she's saying isn't just inconsistent, it didn't happen. We also know that the police must have some evidence that leads them to have enough for an affidavit requesting a search warrant that includes digging through floorboards, digging through yards, and cutting holes in floorboards and walls. That's not a usual cursory search of a premises when there is a missing child. That is them honing in on something, reacting to evidence that they have.
His attorney says that detectives showed the couple some security video that was taken from a liquor store across the street of when Rebecca says the baby was taken from her vehicle.
Something falls, gets back up. That seems to corroborate exactly what Rebecca's story was in the beginning.
I think
something, not someone, something falls and gets back up, and that corroborates what she said in the beginning. If something fell, i.e. her, and got back up, having been seen on the camera to have been knocked out, and then there being a person running away with a baby, now that would corroborate her story. What he's just described does not.
surveillance video is going
Good
to
try,
play a big
though.
role in this.
Defense attorney Lou Shapiro, who is not involved in this case, says the sheriff's department is keeping all their options open by now calling this a critical missing child case instead of a kidnapping.
I don't think we need to see the rest of that report. It was what the lawyer said that I really wanted. So now then, the lawyer does speak again. So let's have a look at that.
Doesn't seem law enforcement is doing anything to find this child. He's holed up in his house with his family because they are not getting the support that they need. They have people trampling on their property. They have death threats being made. All of the reports I'm seeing on social media that Jake and his wife are running, have fled the country, have fled the jurisdiction, they're at their home. They're at their home, holed up, scared for their own safety, grieving for their son.
Why are they grieving for their son? Furious that their son has been taken, anxious to have him returned, And they're the right kinds of things to be saying. Grieving is something you do when somebody has passed away.
Personally spent time with Jake and have seen the emotions in his face. He is not in any way running, hiding, or doing anything to exhibit any behaviors of somebody that is trying to be deceptive in this case.
And we've learned Jake pled guilty to child cruelty charges in a separate 2018 case out of Riverside County. According to court records, he's currently on probation for those charges after he was.
So you'll see here that the conviction actually took place in 2021. I think the last day for trial was 2023, but actually he and his ex-wife pled guilty in 2021, hence the probation actually, I'm sorry, that isn't accurate, is it? So I'm just looking at it again. So the filing date is the date that the charges were filed. So maybe it was 2023.
Convicted and jailed in 2023 and is also facing additional charges for weapons possession. Meanwhile, the nonprofit organization Uvalde Foundation for Kids, we've learned, has withdrawn its $5,000 reward in search efforts, citing the parents' unwillingness to cooperate with the investigation. Now, back out here live, when speaking with the father's attorney, he told me that since that initial missing child's poster went up, several of them all throughout the Inland Empire, they've had to discontinue their numbers because they've been receiving around-the-clock death threats and also have been getting visits at their Cabazon home. We're going to hear more from that attorney coming up at 10 o'clock. For now, live in San Bernardino, I'm Mario Ramirez. Back to you.
All right, Mario, thank you for that update.
Let's bring it back to me for a minute. They've discontinued their phone numbers. After putting up posters about their abducted child, allegedly abducted child, they've discontinued their phone numbers because they're getting death threats. If my child was still missing, it wouldn't matter who threatened me with what. I would not discontinue my phone number, because what if one of my flyers falls into the hands of somebody who's got valid, up-to-date information about where my baby is? I don't think a parent in the world would. Sorry, I've got to wriggle and get comfy. I overdid it a little bit yesterday. I'm a little bit sore today. I don't think there is a parent out there in the world who, if their child was missing, would get rid of their phone numbers if they might be contacted by somebody with real information about where they are. Now then, the next bit of information that I want to share with you actually is about the creators that are following and reporting on this case. We heard a lot at the beginning from On the Tira, who is a TikTok creator called Ahmed, and he was doing sterling work. Now, I know that he's undergoing treatment. I don't know what for. But it would appear that he and some other creators who were camped outside the house have been goading neighbours whilst purporting to protest about missing Emmanuel and wanting to know where he is. Now, I've got no problem with people doing respectful, quiet protests. I've got no problem with creators staking out the house so that they can film anything that might happen. I have got a problem with people making threats to parents that are suspects. We don't want vigilante behaviour going on. And it can impede investigations massively if you are tripping up and knocking on people's doors and harassing them. You can also push parents or suspects in any matter to run if you harass them too much. We don't want evidence to be damaged. We don't want evidence to be impacted. We don't want parents to disappear. So please don't overstep the mark. Let the police do the investigating, and creators, please stick to the reporting. Now, the protests, fine, no problem. But remember that the neighbours haven't done anything wrong. And they've still got to lead their lives. And that includes sleeping, having to get up for work the next day, having children in the house that need to sleep. So be mindful about how you conduct yourselves. What happened overnight was that some of the creators were goading a neighbour, and there is some of it here. I've not watched it. I haven't watched this clip. I only found it just before I came on. So this is shared by Cinema Shogun, so shout out to him. Please do go ahead and hop on over to his channel and subscribe if you want to look at the whole thing. I just want to look at a portion of it and let's see what's going on. I believe that Onlytira has in fact received a suspension on his account from posting material, but that's just what I've heard, so I can't confirm that one way or the other. But it looks like things are not straightforward over there. So this might be the bit where so it's obvious here that the neighbour is getting angry and the creators are goading him. Now, I think later on in this clip it shows the police arriving. So you look, see here, they've got, where is baby Emmanuel? This looks remarkably like the back head of Dolly. Maybe he's there too. Yeah, there's no more on there. So by all means, if you want to see the full thing, big shout out to Cinema Shogun. But please, everybody, please be mindful that the neighbours around there, they've not done anything that we know of course, but they're not involved in this. Now, the final thing I want to share with you is this. It's a bit of information from News Nation. So again, shout out to them. Ashley Banfield, I've got the utmost of respect for. She asks the hardline questions, and I appreciate her massively. But she has taken a look at the case relating to Jake Haro's daughter. So let's have a listen, because she gives a little bit more information than I had available yesterday.
Of a desperate search for a 7-month-old baby boy named Emmanuel Haro, and the details that we've just learned about the baby's father and his criminal past, absolutely hair-raising. The number of children that have been moved out of the Haro home into the custody of others is nothing short of alarming. Let me take you back for a moment. Baby Emmanuel was reported missing last Thursday. His mother, Rebecca Haro, claimed that a stranger approached her from behind, said, "Hola," and then knocked her unconscious. She says when she woke up, baby Emmanuel was gone, right there in the parking lot, gone. But according to investigators, Rebecca's story didn't add up all the way. Rebecca refused a lie detector test, and both she and her husband have stopped cooperating with the police, the authorities say. To be clear, there have been no charges filed against Jake or Rebecca Haro, and Jake's attorney insisted right here on this show last night that his client, Jake Haro, is cooperating, despite that statement from the police suggesting otherwise. Tonight it is Jake's past, however, that is becoming a lot more worrisome. Yesterday, we learned about his felony child cruelty conviction, the one that put him in jail for 6 months back in 2023. Both Jake and his ex-wife, Vanessa Avila, pleaded guilty to the charges, and tonight we have learned that crime was committed against his own 10-week-old baby girl, a child who survived but suffered horrendous lifelong injuries. We've got photos of the child, and I should tell you that the family has given us permission to show those photos, likely as a warning about Jake Haro. But I do want to tell you this. When we show you those photos, they are quite disturbing. So fair warning in advance. Here is the little girl in her hospital bed, 10 weeks old. She is recovering here from several fractures to her ribs, to her skull, and to her legs. She is also recovering from a brain hemorrhage. This little girl was eventually removed from the Haro home, and she was adopted by one of Vanessa's cousins. That cousin has cared for this little girl and even renamed her. Her new name is Promise Faith.
What an amazing, amazing lady. Vanessa's cousin needs to be hailed as a hero in this story, because not only does she care for baby Promise Faith. She cares for Promise Faith's older brother, who was 7 at the time that this set of injuries occurred. She adopted them both. But she didn't stop there. She has gone on to take in Jake and Rebecca's 2-year-old child, the daughter, Emmanuel's older sister. What an amazing person. You rock, absolutely. And you have absolutely got, for what it's worth, which isn't very much, the Crime Courtroom Confidential seal of approval. And I hope that you are, blessed forever because of the actions that you took following this horrendous incident.
According to the cousin, Promise is now 7 years old. But take a look at this picture. The damage that she suffered from those injuries was permanent. Promise was left blind. Promise was left unable to walk. Promise was left unable to talk and unable to swallow due to strangulation. We are told.
Did you hear that? Due to strangulation.
From this cousin that Promise has 3% brain function, that Promise needs a feeding tube, and that Promise will need round-the-clock care for the rest of her life. So let's just contemplate this as you see these pictures.
And for all of the injury and damage that she's sustained, look at this beautiful little girl, smiling. She is happy, she is cared for, she is loved. I am so proud of Promise Faith and the fact that not only has she survived, she is loving life as much as she can.
Rebecca Haro, who beat this child, received 6 months in jail and probation afterwards. The same cousin who adopted this little girl, Promise, also took in Jake's oldest son, who she says was born with fetal alcohol syndrome. That child was named after his father, Jake, but the cousin also renamed the little boy. His new name is Carlos. And now this same cousin who has taken in 2 of Jake Haro's children, one that Jake Haro beat into a lifelong condition, another that was born with fetal alcohol syndrome. Now this cousin is caring for a 3rd child removed from the Haro home just this week. A 2-year-old child was taken out of Jake and Rebecca's care. I'm joined now by true crime digital creator Abby Escobar, who spoke directly with this cousin who has been caring for.
This is the lady whose post I shared yesterday. So this is Abby Blabby. I am so pleased that she spoke to the family members, got their story, got their pictures, got their consent to share that story, because it doesn't just stop with a warning about Jake. It also does something else. It gives a really clear message that something went terribly wrong in this case. And also to new parents that you can very easily create huge levels of damage to your baby if you shake them, hit them, or treat them with anything other than the utmost of care. They are fragile little beings, and they depend on us for everything. Hi, Angelina. Really good to see you. We're just going through the updates in the Emmanuel Haro case. And I've played a few clips already, so it's worth going back to the beginning. The damage can be immense, and there are different levels of damage that children who suffer from shaken baby syndrome, or who are, you know, thrown onto a bed in a really uncaring way, who are hit, who, you know, are shaken, who are strangled. We now know that Jake did in fact strangle Promise Faith, as well as the other things that he did to her over a period of time. If you get to the point as a new parent where you cannot deal with the frustrations of what a new baby brings, which is lots of crying, not much in return at the beginning, they're just there and they demand. If you can't deal with it and you're getting frustrated, put the baby down and walk away. Doesn't matter if you leave a baby unattended in a safe place for 10 minutes or half an hour or even an hour. It doesn't matter if it means that that baby doesn't have to face a life like Promise Faith now faces.
These children. Abby uncovered these incredible details. First and foremost, I don't even know what the word is. Apoplectic, devastated, angry, all of the above. That these three kids have had to be moved out of the Haro home, and yet the Haros still had children living there. Let's just start right there, Abby. Child cruelty, a prison sentence, and this little child was left with lifelong incapacities. How is it that they still had kids?
I don't get it. It is such a huge injustice. I mean, they practically killed that child, and here they are just living their lives like nothing even happened. How is that fair?
Well, and it's shocking to think that there were two other kids at least. And I don't know if there are more, but Jake Haro Jr., renamed Carlos, and now this 2-year-old baby, not pictured on your screen. This is baby Promise, who's now 7, but another baby that's 2 years old that has been moved into the cousin's care. And of course, baby Emmanuel. How is it that the authorities allowed children to live in this home? Are we getting any answers?
Yeah, you would think that any children they had would have immediately been taken by CPS just because of the history. But no, they were allowed to remarry, have more children, and nothing happened. I mean, this little girl actually...
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, this little girl has to fight every day just to stay alive. And they're out like nothing. It's just
and I'll
not
tell
fair.
you, it's hard to tell from some of the pictures we're showing. It's hard to tell, but Promise, again, who's now about 7, has some of the same facial features as her little brother, Emmanuel.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people have wondered, was Emmanuel beaten the same way that Promise was beaten so as to have rendered him with those same facial features? Do you know anything about that?
So I don't, but you know, I've been talking about this on my TikTok and my Facebook, and there have been a lot of comments saying things like that. People noticing the similarities. It really has to make you wonder.
Well, all of it is.
I think it's fair to say, and I'm just going to bring it back a little bit here to this picture of Emmanuel. So I have dealt with a number of these cases. The payment I make for my passion for children is that I try and protect them as part of my profession. And if I can't protect them, by immediately preventing their parents from doing what they do, that I try and get them to a safe place. I try and get them a permanence plan that means that they are then no longer in that situation and at risk of further harm. Often we get involved when it is too late, but I will say a number of things. So number one is people are right when they are picking out that there is something about the photographs of Emmanuel that demonstrate that he has similar characteristics to a child who has suffered from a brain trauma of some kind. He doesn't appear to use his limbs properly. He doesn't appear to be able to hold his head up. Now, there may be photos out there of him sitting up, smiling, laughing and playing with toys. I don't know. But they're certainly not in the public domain. His eyes are not just a lazy eye. His eyes are neurologically impacted. His pupils are not visible in the same way that a normal child's pupils would be visible. You look at the photographs, his eyes look almost cloudy. He essentially looks like he may very well be blind or close to blindness. He doesn't smile in any of the photographs. In the photographs of him where he's lay on his back, he predominantly has his head to the side, as though he can't quite hold it steady himself. So there are several characteristics that raise red flags. There's also some indication of some swelling, like changes to the shape of his head if you look at some of the photographs. So maybe those were taken around the time of any injury that may have occurred. You tend to see that children who have had a brain injury will have either swelling around the fontanelle, which is the soft part where the pieces of the skull join, and eventually they will fuse together as you were growing. But as a baby, they aren't fused together and they overlap so that the skull can grow appropriately, get to the right stage, and then it fuses. Swelling around the eyes, swelling around the temples, so all the soft bits of the head, essentially. So I think it's clear that there is a good possibility that something happened to this young man. The other thing that I'll touch on is that in relation to how the heck he was able to have care and control of any children after what happened to Promise Faith. If the system is working correctly, that should not have happened. And as soon as there is any indication to a professional that has access to one of the systems, so police, health professionals, schools is too young for that, the health visitors, that type of thing. As soon as there is an indication that he's the father, there should have automatically have been a referral into children's services or CPS or whatever it's called in that particular area. Usually what happens is that then there is an assessment pre the birth of the child. With a history of this level of inflicted injury on a child, even having taken a child mistreatment course, even if you did brilliantly in that, it is highly unlikely that you would be assessed as appropriate to have custody of a child. So had the system been working properly, had either the police or health services been aware that he was the father, there should have been an investigation into whether or not Emmanuel and his older sister should ever live with their parents. And it may have been that if that had occurred, that Rebecca Haro could have been told that either she is to care for these children alone and separate from Jake Haro, or they will be removed. And that's usually kind of what we say. And it's not the case that we're forcing people to separate from their spouses. We are not. We would never say that we can exert that kind of power over an adult, that you can tell someone they can't be in a relationship. But the answer is that there are consequences if you choose to stay in a relationship that puts a child at risk. And one of those consequences potentially is that you are not able to keep care of that child. But it's clear that in this case, that system failed, and it failed miserably.
To make you wonder.
Well, all of it is just sort of unbelievable that these kids still lived in the home after this little child promise was rendered in this condition from the beating she received from her father, according to the cousin. Let's talk about the cousin, Vanessa Avila's cousin. And let's remember, Rebecca Haro is the woman who is claiming that her baby Emmanuel was taken from her when she was hit over the head. Her husband, Jake, was married to another woman, a woman named Vanessa Avila. She also pleaded guilty to the beating of baby Promise. Why is it that this cousin feels it's so important to get this story out and to get those pictures out?
Well, I think that she feels that justice wasn't served the first time, which, I mean, it obviously wasn't, but she hasn't told me directly, but she has made comments to the point of, if justice would have been served the first time, then this wouldn't have happened to more children. So she's personally affected by this
cousin, does this cousin of Vanessa Avila believe the story that the Haros are telling on TV in this clip right here, where she says, I was hit in the head, I woke up, the baby was gone, please help me find the baby? The cousin doesn't believe it. What has she told you?
Absolutely not. Excuse me. She said that when she first heard the news story, it just broke her to pieces. She immediately had a feeling, as I feel most people have. I mean, the story just doesn't really make very much sense.
Yeah, the police have said it doesn't make sense. They put out a statement that her stories don't add up and that they believe foul play is possible. They've taken cadaver dogs to the Haro home. There are reports that there were some kind of digging activity at the Haro home as well. In the meantime, just knowing now about this history, about these three other children now living in Vanessa Avila's cousin's care, how are those children now? How is this cousin, and I understand she wants to remain nameless, she's also putting out a plea to everyone, please stop. Don't come to my children's school. Reporters showed up at her children's school. I mean, how are they managing through all of this?
The kids, they're wonderful. The cousin has provided these kids with such an amazing life. She and her husband, they love them. They take wonderful care of them. The children are happy and they're well.
I mean, Promise has to have round-the-clock care and a feeding tube. She's unable to feed because of the strangulation, reportedly. It's just, that is an enormous amount of work that they are putting into the care of this poor child. I just don't understand how it only yielded 6 months, and also yielded a father who was allowed to come out and still have 3 children in his home? That's the part I don't understand. Are there any
cannot
other
wrap my head
details
around
that
it.
this cousin shared?
Well, she said that Promise, they were told that they didn't think she would even live a week after this happened, but they have done everything they can for this little girl to keep her going. She's got the tracheostomy tube. She has to be suctioned frequently so she doesn't choke on her own mucus. The feeding tube. She can't walk. She can't talk. She's blind. It's just horrible. But I mean, she said that Promise is her miracle baby, and really she is. It's amazing that she survived that. 10 weeks old.
It is, but just tragic that she was, condemned to a life like this because of the acts of her father.
Absolutely.
If all of the cousins reporting,
he gets to
is
remarry.
accurate.
Yeah. And then he gets to remarry and have more kids. And there's no intervention. There's no concern. And now a 7-month-old baby is gone. I just feel like more should have been
done. Well, and here
done.
we have this, this report at 10 weeks old. I mean, at 10 weeks old, a newborn is so helpless and so tiny and can do so little to upset us, except, create just the utmost joy to know that anyone was capable of creating that much damage to a 10-week-old. I dare say I am very concerned about baby Emmanuel and what might have happened to baby Emmanuel, but it's starting to look more and more suspicious, these pleas for help to find baby Emmanuel. Abby, thank you for your reporting. Bring you can to the show if you learn more throughout. Then I know this is all very much developing and you're learning.
So that's the story of the older child of Jake Haro. That's his background. And we don't see, I know I've already talked about why the police haven't carried on searching externally, but we don't see these parents continuing to do so, or in fact doing so at all. They put a few flyers up at the beginning. They came on the news, but then nothing. Crickets. They're sat in their house doing zero. Apart from telling people who come to offer help that they're trespassing. So the family aren't trying to look for baby Emmanuel. They're clearly deceptive. There is a history in the property of mistreatment of children with staggeringly awful results. And then we've got the risk factor that there has clearly been some level of alcohol use within the family, because Carlos, the older brother of Promise Faith, was born with fetal alcohol syndrome, and actually they thought that Promise would be too, but in actual fact she turned out to be born completely healthy. We've got clear signs that there may be violence from Jake, not just to children but also to Rebecca, because that black eye is not new. So if there is domestic DV, let's say that, if there is DV between Jake and Rebecca, then that's another risk factor. If my suspicions are correct and they have caused some level of injury to Emmanuel before those pictures that are circulating were taken of him, a very, very difficult thing to deal with. And if the treatment of him has continued, then it will be even more difficult to deal with, because he will become more and more injured and probably more and more vocal with his crying and being upset and etc. It may even be that he was injured and they didn't seek help, and then there have been consequences as time has gone on for him as his condition has progressed, and they didn't actually intend to unalive him, but that was a natural progression of his injuries because he didn't get the right medical treatment. Whatever happened to him, he's certainly not a happy, healthy baby at home with his parents being doted on like he should have been. This little boy is beautiful. He is immensely beautiful. Let's just have a better look at him again. Because this is absolutely breaking my heart. Baby Emmanuel. We all need to share as much as we can about this story. I think the police are working very hard. I think they're keeping quiet because they know what happened, or certainly have a good idea of what happened. And they're ensuring that they build a watertight case. And I suspect that their opinion will be, because I know mine would be if I was in their position, he's not going to get away with it again. So they'll be making extra sure that they've crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's. And let's hope that is the case and that we're going to see a resolution to this relatively quickly. Shout out to everybody who has joined me today in chat. Justice, Jane, Angelina, Crackerjacks, it's lovely to see you here. Shout out to anybody who watches on the replay crew. Please, please, if you haven't subscribed, do so. Please hit the like button. I do want to cover more of these cases, but it's going to be much easier if I can get the channel to grow a little bit. So if you can help me out by doing that, that would be fantastic. It remains only for me to say thank you very much for watching. Please keep baby Emmanuel and his siblings in your thoughts and prayers, and look after yourselves, look after each other, and I'll see you next time.